Blessed is he who reads aloud the words of the prophecy, and blessed are those who hear and who keep what is written therein, for the time is near. Revelation 1:3. So let's dive in and trust the Lord that he will give you wisdom and understanding as we go verse by verse through the book of Revelation. Always remember Acts 17:11, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily whether these things were so.
Revelation chapter 17, the great harlot and the scarlet beast. In chapter 17, we now have the specific judgment of God upon the false religious system that has damned the souls of so many men through deception. Jesus warned us to beware of false prophets who will come looking like sheep, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Matthew 7, verse 15. And the false religious system, which traps the soul of men, and its judgment is coming. Chapter 17 tells us of this judgment. Babylon is used in the scripture as a symbol of confusion, because it was in Babylon where men, in rebellion against the living God, decided to build a tower whereby they could communicate with the universe. Ancient man was not as primitive and ignorant as we think him to be. They had tremendous means of communication, perhaps even superior to ours, because there are indications that they had developed methods whereby they could communicate with other beings outside of the earth. Revelation 17, verse 1. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and spoke with me, saying, Come here, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot, who sits on many waters. Revelation 17, verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth committed acts of immorality, and those who dwell on the earth were made drunk with the wine of her immorality. The great harlot, or religious Babylon, is described by the angel. Her judgment is assured at the outset. There's never any doubt regarding the fate and ultimate failure of Babylon. Here, Babylon sits on many waters. That is, she presides over many nations. She has a universal, international character. This is a unification of all false, idolatrous religion, with representatives from apostate Catholicism, Protestantism, as well as a smorgasbord of other religions of the world. The woman pictures false religion that will dominate the world in the tribulation period. False religion is not limited to any one church. The inhabitants of the earth were made drunk. Religious Babylon intoxicates kings and peoples. Karl Marx was partly right when he said that religion is the opiate of the masses. He was partly right because empty religion is the opium of the masses. They are made drunk on the wine of her fornication. The idea of fornication often has strong associations throughout the Bible with idolatry. But we remember that this will be a religious system, and so it will likely appear as attractive and spiritual, though not necessarily moral. Revelation 17, verse 3. And he carried me away in the Spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Revelation 17, verse 4. The woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a gold cup full of abominations, and of the unclean things of her immorality. Revelation 17, verse 5. And on her forehead a name was written, a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Revelation 17, verse 6. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. When I saw her, I wondered greatly. What John saw. John is carried away into the wilderness. The desolate nature of the wilderness is an appropriate setting for a vision of judgment. The harlot rides the same beast, 7 heads and 10 horns, which was previously seen in Revelation 13:1, the Antichrist and his dictatorship. Her association with blasphemy and the dragon's beast are clearly seen from God's perspective. But to the people of the earth, she will look quite religious, having the faith everybody wants. She is clothed with emblems of luxury, purple, gold, and precious stones, and government, scarlet. Yet she offers idolatry, abominations, and impurity, filthiness of her fornication, in this sumptuous setting. Purple and scarlet were colors of splendor and magnificence. The dyes to make them were rare and costly. We find in the course of church history that one of the deadliest marks of religious corruption is the lust for power. Purple and scarlet were the colors of rulers, whether economic or political. The name on her forehead identifies her in more ways than one. Roman prostitutes frequently wore a headband with their name engraved upon it. Nonetheless, in spite of all her glamour, she's nothing but a prostitute. There's a stark contrast between the woman of chapter 12, representing Israel, God's people, and this woman, representing idolatrous false religion. This title is not for literal Babylon, but its spiritual or mystery representation, which is the source, mother, of all idolatry, abominations, and spiritual adultery, harlots. This harlot must be larger than any one branch of a religious institution. She is the embodiment of Satan's own religious movement, the religion of the world system. Our world today says it doesn't matter what you believe as long as you believe. This philosophy is ripe for the harlot's seductions. We see the casual disregard for the truth crippling the church today. She not only persecutes, she revels in her persecution of the godly, as a drunk revels in wine. Why is John amazed? Because this isn't pagan persecution, such as he knew in his day, but religious error and persecution. This is a false church after the blood of the saints. We should never forget that some of the most vicious persecution conducted against true Christians has been done in the name of the church. In the days when the Roman Catholic Queen Mary ruled England, known as Bloody Mary for good reason, some 288 Christians were burnt at the stake for their stand for Christian truth between 1555 and 1558. The first of these martyrs was a man named John Rogers, who, as he stood chained to a stake and the fire rose around him up to his legs and shoulders, he rubbed his hands in the flames as if he were washing his hands in cold water. Then he lifted his hands to the heavens and held them high until he was completely consumed. But Rogers went to the stake with such calm and dignity that the French ambassador wrote that when he went to his death, it was as if he was walking to his wedding. His courage was so evident that the huge crowd burst into applause when they saw him walking to the stake. Revelation 17, verse 7. And the angel said to me, "Why do you wonder? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns." The great harlot is interpreted. The angel tells John that the harlot will be explained to him. The focus of the explanation is on the beast. It appears that the harlot ruled or rode the Antichrist's system, but he is using her, as tyrants have always used religion, as a mere tool to accomplish their purposes. Initially, we saw the woman riding the beast in chapter 17, verse 3. Here, we see the beast carrying the woman, a small but, I believe, important change of terminology, as Antichrist employs the false religious system to serve his own agenda. Revelation 17, verse 8. The beast that you saw was, and is not, and is about to come up out of the abyss and go to destruction. And those who dwell on the earth, whose name has not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, will wonder when they see the beast that he was, and is not, and will come. The beast is plainly connected with the beast of chapter 13. Revelation 17, verse 9. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. 7 mountains. Many associate the 7 mountains with Rome and the papacy, because Rome is well known as the city on 7 hills. Yet, literally, the Greek word means mountains, not hills. but mountains are sometimes a figure of governments, such as Daniel 2, verse 35, and the city of Rome is built on hills, not mountains. Even Peter is regarded as using Babylon as a code name for Rome, although some take it literal. It is probably better to see the 7 mountains as the 7 kings or kingdoms described in verse 10. Many people find the connection between religious Babylon and Roman Catholicism as irresistible, yet it is flawed in the sense that there is no doubt religious Babylon will incorporate a strong Roman Catholic element, but it will be bigger than Roman Catholicism. Indications about Roman Catholicism's ultimate partnership with a one-world religion are evident in Pope John Paul II's bizarre involvement with and approval of other anti-Christian religions. In addressing a prayer gathering of Christians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, and others, Pope John Paul II told participants that their efforts were unleashing profound spiritual energies in the world and bringing about a new climate of peace. The Pope pledged that the Catholic Church intends to share in and promote such ecumenical and interreligious cooperation. The Catholic Review commented on this and said, "The unity of religion promoted by the Holy Father, Pope John Paul II, and approved by His Holiness the Dalai Lama is not a goal to be achieved immediately, but a day may come when the love and compassion which both Buddha and Christ preached so eloquently will unite the world in a common effort to save humanity from senseless destruction, and leading toward the light in which we all believe." Revelation 17, verse 10. "And they are 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must remain a little while." So the beast is, according to this, one of the 5 previous Roman emperors prior to the writing of the book of Revelation by John. At the time that John was writing, he was no longer alive. He was in the abuso. He ascends out of the abuso, but the world will wonder at this man who once lived and was dead and is now alive again. Of the 7 of the major Roman emperors, of course the one who comes closest to fitting the description is none other than Caesar Nero, whose name numerically in Hebrew totals to 666. Caesar Nero was called by the early church the Beast. That was the common name because he wreaked so much havoc upon the church. It was quite apparent that he was possessed by demonic spirits. The things that he did could only be done by a mind perverted by Satan. The horrible atrocities that this man brought against the Christian church could only be done by a mind that was totally deranged by demonic forces. Revelation 17, verse 11. "The beast which was and is not is himself also an 8th, and is one of the 7, and he goes to destruction." The beast, or Antichrist, is clearly identified as the 8th king. He is of the 7 in the sense that he shares characteristics with all previous world empires, but his fate is clear. Revelation 17, verse 12. "The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have not yet received a kingdom, but they receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour." Revelation 17, verse 13. "These have one purpose, and they give their power and authority to the beast." Revelation 17, verse 14. "These will wage war against the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him are the called and chosen and faithful." Revelation 17, verse 15. "And he said to me, The waters which you saw, where the harlot sits, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues." 10 kings to come, allies of the Antichrist. This probably alludes to a 10-nation confederation, as in the toes of the Daniel 2 verses 24 to 45 image. Or some take 10 as a symbolic number. They are 10 kingdoms which shall arise out of the 4th great kingdom there, 10 European powers, which shall make war against Christ. In the precise number and form here indicated, they have not yet arisen. What changes in Europe may bring them into the required tale and form, it is not for us to say. Many have seen the European Economic Community as the potential fulfillment of this. Perhaps, but now there are more than 10 nations in this revived economic power, and more on the way. There is little doubt of the credentials of the EEC to claim itself a successor to the ancient Roman Empire. The EEC started in 1957, when 6 European nations met to talk about combining their nuclear, coal, and economic resources. They met together in Rome and signed the Treaty of Rome, the beginnings of the present EEC. In many places in Europe, the EEC flag is just as prominent as any national flag. Whoever they are, their actions are clear. They ally with the Antichrist in the war against Christ, in the battle alluded to in the 6th and 7th bowls. The harlot presides over peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. This tells us that the harlot's influence is worldwide, through her connection to the beast. This is truly a one-world religion. The interpretation of the harlot focuses on her relation to the beast. She is utterly connected to the beast and his government. Sound unthinkable? Throughout history, religion, not true Christianity, has often been the willing servant and supporter of tyrants. Revelation 17, verse 6. And the 10 horns which you saw, and the beast, these will hate the harlot, and will make her desolate and naked, and will eat her flesh, and will burn her up with fire. The great harlot is judged. Antichrist's allies turn on the great harlot. This violence probably takes place at the midpoint of the tribulation period. Here, apostate religion discovers the true nature of the beast. Ultimately, the Antichrist will not tolerate any worship except of himself. The son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 3 and 4. Once his power has been consolidated, the Antichrist no longer needs the help of religious Babylon, and works to dismantle and destroy her and her one-world religion. This has always been the goal of tyrants, and most politicians, to use religion for their purposes and then discard it. Revelation 17, verse 17. For God has put it in their hearts to execute his purpose by having a common purpose, and by giving their kingdom to the beast until the words of God will be fulfilled. John is reminded that God's hand is the one ultimately directing all of this. God has put it into their hearts. God has directed the judgment against religious Babylon, and God will sometimes use a wicked group, here the 10 kings, to be an instrument of his judgment against another wicked group, here religious Babylon. God has ordained the political support of these 10 kings for the Antichrist. In doing so, God is giving the world exactly what it wants: godless religion and rulers. Revelation 17, verse 18. The woman whom you saw is the great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. The great harlot is identified with Rome. In John's day, there was no doubt which city reigns over the kings of the earth. Rome was the political, economic, and religious center of the world in John's day. Again, the association of this harlot, of religious Babylon, with Rome doesn't mean that the Roman Catholic Church is identical to religious Babylon, though apostate Roman Catholics will definitely be a part of this great harlot. Rather, Rome was the ready personification of Babylon, the world in rebellion against God, in John's day. Today, idolatry is just as strong, but more dispersed. Today, which city in the world is most readily identified with the world system? Hollywood? New York? Washington? The announcement of Babylon's fall. Introduction. Is this the same Babylon as is described in chapter 17? Good scholars see the issue differently. Some point to 2 manifestations of Babylon, one religious and one commercial. Others see the 2 as one, both being judged at the same time. There are definite similarities between Babylon as described in Revelation 17 and Revelation 18. Both are under the rule of Antichrist, ruling queens. Both are filled with blasphemy. Both hate the saints and shed their blood. Both are associates with kings in fornication. And both are under judgment and destroyed. However, there are some significant differences. Chapter 17, Religious Babylon. Mystery Babylon. Symbol, a harlot woman. Identified with Rome, inland. Woman, whore, and mother. Guilty, religious abominations. Destroyed by a political power. Chapter 18, Commercial Babylon. Great Babylon, Babylon the Great. Symbol, a great city. Identified with a port city. Habitation, great city and marketplace. Guilty, greed and self-indulgence. Destroyed by a sudden act of God who had previously supported her. It is best to see them as intertwined yet somewhat distinct, with one being attacked at the midpoint of the 7-year period of tribulation, religious Babylon, and the other at the end of that period, commercial Babylon. This passage is very much in the style of Old Testament prophecies of doom regarding wicked cities. Babylon in Isaiah chapter 13, 14, 21, and Jeremiah 50 and 51, and Tyre in Ezekiel 26 through 28. John has caught the spirit of the prophetic doom songs. Is this Babylon a literal or symbolic city? Some have thought it to be a future rebuilt Babylon on the Euphrates River in the Middle East, now a desolate desert in modern-day Iraq. Saddam Hussein had been outspoken in his desire to resurrect the ruined city of Babylon in all its glory. He tried, in fact, to do this, and it is conceivable that a rebuilt Babylon could be a world economic center, especially with the wealth of Mideast oil. In 1985, Saddam Hussein started rebuilding the city on top of the old ruins. Because of this, artifacts and other finds may well be under the city by now, investing in both restoration and new construction. To the dismay of archaeologists, he inscribed his name on many of the bricks in imitation of Nebuchadnezzar. One frequent inscription read, "This was built by Saddam Hussein, son of Nebuchadnezzar, to glorify Iraq." This recalls the ziggurat of Ur, where each individual brick was stamped with Ur-Nammu, king of Ur, who built the temple of Nana. These bricks became sought after as collector's items after the downfall of Hussein, and the ruins are no longer being restored to their original state. He also installed a huge portrait of himself and Nebuchadnezzar at the entrance to the ruins, and shored up Processional Way, a large boulevard of ancient stones, and the Lion of Babylon, a black rock sculpture about 2,600 years old. When the Gulf War ended, Saddam wanted to build a modern palace, also over some old ruins. It was made in the pyramidal style of a Sumerian ziggurat. He named it Saddam Hill. In 2003, he was ready to begin the construction of a cable car line over Babylon when the invasion began and halted the project. An article published in April of 2006 states that the UN officials and Iraqi leaders have big plans for restoring Babylon, making it a gem of a new Iraq as a cultural center complete with shopping malls, hotels, and perhaps a theme park. One day, millions of people will visit Babylon. In portraying the destruction of a symbolic city, he describes God's judgment on the great satanic system of evil that has corrupted the earth's history.